the hard work's done, man. I've been with Joe Lozon, 3 or 4 days a week working on my ground game. I've been up with my striking coaches 3 or 4 days a week working on that aspect of the game. We've been honing in, focusing in on some specialty things for this opponent. We didn't have a ton of time to prepare for him exclusively because we had a last minute opponent change, but yeah. I mean, this is the best camp that we could have put together, and I'm so confident and at peace with the work that I put in for this fight that I couldn't ask for a better camp. I mean, I couldn't have asked for it to go any better.
Because you mentioned the opponent change, didn't you there? Well, given the circumstances of this year, nothing's gone to plan for anybody in any realm of their profession. So I guess you're on your toes all the time. You're ready for anything, and nothing was going to stop this from happening because April you were scheduled to fight. That event got cancelled. Then you had the opponent change there. So was it a case of, look, we're going to find your opponent straight away. Don't worry, you're not off the card or anything like that?
So when everything happened with the pandemic and the fight getting canceled in April, that was really just like a big blessing in disguise. So I'm in a situation where my girlfriend is a nurse in Boston, and she is at one of the hotspot hospitals in the Northeast, or not in the Northeast because New York City was a shit show, but she was at one of the epicenter hospitals in Boston. And outside of the voluntary isolating and quarantining that was recommended, we had to be extra careful because she was dealing with COVID positive people on the daily. So, when I was slated for Danny Henry, it was really hard for me to wrap my head around getting ready for a fight alone in my basement with a heavy bag and an Aerodyne bike on my own. So it broke me mentally. It put me in it started putting me into a really dark spot. Started getting this really bad victim mentality. Like, why not? Like, how is this any different than anything else that's gone on in my story? Like, of course, my UFC debut is going to be amidst a global pandemic. But, I just got I was really focused on the stuff that I couldn't control, and I really let that consume me. And then, I've said this a million times, I watched my homie Calvin fight, and he got better through all of this. And I had a couple of quick conversations with him about, focusing on what we can control, getting back into that book, Relentless by Tim Grover, revisiting that, rereading that, and just putting my best foot forward and making sure I'm putting everything into my training that I possibly can. So, I kind of had, like a little rock bottom there right before the Danny Henry fight got canceled, and I was able to build myself back up with a solid foundation. And I was getting ready for Steve Garcia. And of course, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he pulled out with an injury, and now we're slated with Youseff Zalal, which, in my opinion, another blessing in disguise, because when I go out there and finish him, he's on a 2-0 roll, and I get to steal that thunder right away, and I get to propel myself forward up the ranks.
Yeah, well, when people looked at the performance in the Contender, I mean, you didn't have an easy fight at all in the Contender. I can see the hat right there. You've always got it with you. Not an easy fight at all.
I've worn this hat every single day since I got it. It was like, I told myself, I went out there for Richie Santiago's fight earlier that season, and I ended up with this hat, and I told myself I was gonna wear this hat every day. This hat will be with me in Vegas. I have no shame on coming through the Contender Series, and that was just a gift from the universe to have that opportunity to fight Sang Hun Yu.
Yeah, I think it's been absolutely amazing for the sport. The amount of stars that it's produced, the amount of amazing matchups it's produced, and yours was an amazing matchup. You dug deep, you showed everyone that you've got heart in there, but what you've not even had the chance to show people that have not seen your fights in the past is that you have tremendous knockout power, tremendous finishing prowess, whether it's on the feet, on the ground. Is that something that you're going to be looking to get in people's minds this year now, that you are a finisher?
Yeah, I mean, I like to knock motherfuckers out, and that's about it. That, I think when I ran 8-0, I think 6 of my 8 fights were first round finishes. 6 of them were, I think I had 7 finishes, 6 in the first round, 6 were knockout TKOs, and 1 was a submission. So like that's where I'm getting back to. That's the groove I want to be in. I've been competing at 155 locally in the local region because there was no need to have the added stress of cutting to 145. I could compete and contend with the top of the top at 155. But, you know, nobody's in the UFC by accident, so I need to be the most competitive that I can be, and 145 is definitely my home.
And being around like absolute killers like Joe Lozon, Calvin, like you mentioned, the New England area is, for me, I'm obviously from England, so we have to go out and find videotapes and, you know, go on Fight Pass to see what the hot spots in the world in the US. But for me, New England definitely seems like it is an absolute hot spot. I've been speaking to Rob Font, Tyson Chartier, who obviously manages a lot of the guys over there. Just talk to me about the hotbed of talent over there. And it mustn't be too hard to find guys to push you to the limits in training every week.
Yeah, I mean, I've been training with Rob and Calvin for years. Tyson's also my manager.
Okay.
You know, getting over to Lozon's was the right step. I think I've just come up on about 1.5 years, almost 2 years with Joe as my jiu-jitsu coach, and it's been a gift to be able to be in that community. You know, like, it's, for the longest time, New England, we're just a bunch of hard-nosed dudes where it was like, fight the toughest guys you can find on the local circuit, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll get to the next level. And over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, with the proper guidance, and Tyson's been a huge part of this, with a lot of the local guys, is making sure that the local guys that can get to the next level, and not to waste your knockouts, not to waste your miles, not to waste your potential with the toughest fights you can find locally. And I'm not saying, go find bread and butter fights. I'm just saying, if you've got two top 145ers that are still in the local scene that could both go do damage at the next level, why make them fight now and sacrifice one of them for the other?
Yeah.
Is a page out of almost like boxing's book. They do a really good job making sure their up and comers fight appropriate fights and get the tougher fights when they're ready for them. And the more you see that come into MMA, I think it's better. I think you're giving these athletes a chance to really grow and shine without peaking early or taking fights before they're ready for them. So,
I mean, your story and the way how you reacted to adversity that you faced during your life is absolutely inspirational for myself, anyone associated with the sport, or anyone that's been through mental health problems like depression in their life. Is that something that you want to address, the more exposure that you get on these big shows now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's medicine that everybody needs. Tyson Fury's Joe Rogan podcast really opened my eyes, and he built himself back up, medicine free, with goals, positive affirmation, just putting the best foot forward and trying to become the best athlete that he could be. And to see that, listen to him speak on it, see how passionate he is, and to see him get back to the top of his game really gave me some inspiration to get my shit together and do the same thing.
I mean, because the common consensus, obviously not from people in the sport, because, we know how much mental aspect the fighting game is. It's not what you see in the octagon. It's everything around it, the fight camp, the support systems and stuff. But I think the common consensus from people on the outside, the people that we're trying to convert into fans into the sport, are that you guys are just hard, fearless men and women with no fears, superhuman strength, superhuman mindsets. But it couldn't be further from the truth, could it? You've all faced adversity, ups and downs, roller coaster weeks, days, like every normal human being on the planet. And that's what makes you guys relatable to the common man, the common woman, and that you address these so that other people can learn from your experiences as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember when I was in high school and in college watching this stuff, when it was Liddell and Couture just beating the shit out of each other. They just seemed like these superhumans that were beyond human capabilities. Like the UFC used to be, what was it, 170 and up was primarily UFC, and anything below that was WEC.
Yeah.
But we got to see the big sluggers, and they just had this aura because they were such large human beings that they must have been larger than life. And in reality, I mean, you've got guys like Donald Cerrone, Darren Till, I'm not on their level yet, but me talking about mental health, saying, you know, it's okay to be afraid. Like, we have nerves, we have good days, we have bad days. You know, we're just like everybody else. We just like to lace on some gloves and beat the shit out of each other.
I mean, what I was reading beforehand, and I don't know if this is true, so I want you to confirm this, is that I know for a fact that you were a bartender for a long time, but do you still do that now to facilitate your training camps and stuff? Because if you do, that is absolutely tremendous for work ethic and everything.
Yeah. So my family grew up, I mean, I grew up in the restaurant industry. My grandfather started I'll drop some names, but they might not resonate with you, but Howard Johnson's was a huge chain back in the 70s and 80s, and has slowly kind of like petered out. But he was a big vice president for them. He started a couple restaurant concepts for them, and then he branched off and started his own restaurant company or business. And, you know, when I was little, I used to play hide and go seek under the tables with my brothers while my dad was at work. Like, I could run a restaurant blindfolded. So now, fast forward to here, I work in one of my uncle's restaurants, and I bartend usually on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then train all week. So it gives me the ability to make a livable income and keep my ass in the gym and not have to worry about a day job. And on that same note, you know, I did have a career. I was in wholesale. I used to buy and sell products for Amazon merchants. I wasn't necessarily an Amazon merchant myself, but if you needed stuff for your Amazon store, I was one of the guys you called. And, you know, I made a killing doing that. And I decided, you know, this is my opportunity to really focus on fighting and give it my all. So I went back into the restaurant industry to free up my weeks and to get my ass in the gym and to maybe focus on sleep a little bit more.
I mean, that is very commendable. And, you know, I take my hat off to you for that, because how many athletes can you say that you know that have done that at the highest level? You're in the biggest sports organization in the world for MMA, and you were still grafting your ass off like you're trying to get to the biggest league in the world. So that is incredible. Do you think that sets you apart from a lot of the top guys at 145?
I've never really thought of it like that. It's just I've done what I've needed to do to make sure I can keep my ass in the gym. And trust me, I wish I wasn't staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and then catching up on sleep Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But it's what I need to do to make sure that I can pay my bills, keep my ass in the gym, financially stay afloat. And even on that same note, like, my mom's helped me out a lot if money ever became an issue. My girlfriend's helped me out a lot if money's ever become an issue. And, you know, part of the motivation for this fight, I want a bonus so I can pay everybody back. I don't want a bonus for like the big dick mentality, like, oh, I knocked this guy out. No, that $50,000 is going to help me get back to like a level playing field with a lot of people that have helped support me and keep my ass in the gym. So it's not a selfish desire to bonus. I want a bonus to pay my student loans off, pay my mom back, pay my girlfriend back, you know, to spread that wealth to the people that have helped me.
I mean, you are heading into, I'd say 145 and bantamweight, they're the most stacked divisions in the UFC right now. So that has got to have your mouth salivating at the prospect of all these high-level matchups in the next 2 to 3 years for you, because even on the build-up, on the come-up, there's just no easy fights at that weight class. So whatever opponents that you defeat, you know that it was a real test for you every single time.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, nobody's in the UFC by accident. There are no easy fights. Once you get to that level, you realize, okay, here's the base level of everybody in the UFC. Now we need to elevate from that level. Like, I got here, that's my goal, is to get here. And now that I'm here, my goal is to get better. My goal is to, you know, Calvin's a homie. He's a teammate and he's a friend. I'm not trying to chase him, but I'm trying to get to that level. You know, he's created an awesome blueprint as to how to succeed at this level. Same thing with Rob. I mean, even we can go as far as to say Conor McGregor. Like, old boy thought about quitting MMA, was on welfare, got the phone call, and then took off. I was about ready to quit when my dad and my brother passed away. My ass is on welfare right now because of the Corona pandemic, and I'm about to blow up too. So like, you can see these like real life case studies firsthand and take inspiration from them, and that's my plan right there. You know, I have my my entry level fights. I want to fight entry level guys, and as soon as we can renegotiate a new contract, start chipping away at that ladder and get as far as I can get, and hopefully contend for that belt one day.
And we mentioned no easy fights. Your opponent, which is a fresh opponent, you've only had this opponent knowingly for just over a week, if that's correct. So was it last Sunday or last Monday that you found out?
You guys might have gotten word last Sunday or last Monday, but I think we've been preparing for like 2 weeks.
Oh, right. Okay. So more than enough time really to get prepared. Youseff Zalal, his name is. What do you make of him from the tape that you studied? And he's had two fights in the UFC, so this will be his third coming up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a long, rangy counter fighter. He's got some good chokes, and he likes to run. He's a very active fighter. He likes to strike and move, get people to bite and counter strike. So, we've been working on those things, not committing so hard until we've got him pinned against the cage and then really sticking it to him. But, Danny Henry was an orthodox striker. Steve Garcia was a southpaw striker. And now Youseff Zalal, I'm back to an orthodox striker. So I have some of the best strikers in the Northeast at my disposal to work with. I mean, if you're familiar with the likes of Nate Andrews, he was just in the PFL tournament last season. He was up here giving me rounds because he's probably one of the toughest southpaws in the Northeast in the MMA community when I was getting ready for Garcia. Chip Maraza Pillard, he's actually going to be in my corner as well. He's like a 9-time lion fight world champion, and he's equally as good southpaw or orthodox. So we've been getting ready for a striker, so it doesn't matter. It's the same mission, just a little bit different of a journey.
And it probably benefits you more. The fact is that your last fight as a professional MMA fighter was in pretty much the same environment that this one is going to be. He's not had that experience other than probably a gym scenario. So,
well, I don't want to cut you off, but I do believe when he fought in June, he was at the Apex.
Oh,
I think he fought in June.
Okay, all right, okay. So you guys are both accustomed to that then. So yeah. He's fought fairly recently then. This is a quick turnaround for him.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So him and Garcia are actually managed by the same guy, and it wasn't like, hey, Garcia's out, we're going to send you a couple names. It's Garcia's out, Zalal's ready.
Right.
Is that okay with you guys?
That makes sense.
So it's kind of like plug and play on that one. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, man. I'm going in there and I'm looking for a head.
So that must even the playing field then. He's experienced the lack of atmosphere. You both had that experience of being able to hear every elbow land, every punch land, the slam on the mat. Do you like that experience from what you remember from the Contender?
When I was fighting on the Contender, man, I was just looking at my destiny within arm's reach, and I was willing to do whatever it was necessary to make sure I got that contract that night. And this Saturday is going to be very much the same. We've seen the UFC cut people off a bad debut, and I refuse to let that be my story. I will go out on my shield if I have to. If I don't get knocked out of the night, me and this boy are going to get fight of the night. That's for damn sure. It's going to be an exciting fight. The only benefit now is when I fought Sang Hoon Yu out there, they spoke Korean, so we couldn't understand what they were saying. Now we're both teams are going to be coaching in English, so maybe it might change a little bit of the dynamic, but we've got some funny code words to keep the fight light, to make sure I'm smiling and having a blast in there the whole time. Like,
yeah.
In between the first and second round on the Contender, and in between the second and third round, when they panned over to me, man, I was just smiling, living my dream, like living my best life. Didn't matter that I had almost got finished in the first minute of that fight. I dug through and I was just laughing about it in between rounds. Like, this is the shit. This is what I live for. This is all the hard work from being a little kid wrestling to playing rugby in college to devoting the last 10 years of my life to the sport. Like, I've always been an aggressive combat athlete in one form or another. And this is just like, this is the beginning of the tip of the iceberg.
You mentioned code words there. They're probably more important than ever in the sport, in the history of the sport really now. A lot of fighters that I've been speaking to have been fighting on Fight Island, that they were sharing like the importance of that. Is that something that is at the forefront of your mind and your coach's minds in camp? Because in a arena scenario, is that something that's as prominent as opposed to what you've experienced in this camp?
I mean, the code words are really just to make sure I stay light and have fun. Like we've got words, if they see me biting down and getting too ingrained at trying to finish this kid, there's a couple of things that you'll hear and be like, you'll see me smile and be like, all right, cool. Gotta shake that off and get back to having fun and staying light and doing my thing. It's not going to matter if I can hear his coach and if he can hear my coach. We're going to do what we want to do, and we're going to see the same things. We're going to hear what, like, keep your lead hands up, hand control, lead hand control, low kick, things along those lines. So the real-time coaching, like, I'm not going to sit there and listen for what his coaches are saying. And I can't imagine it's going to be the same. Maybe my corner is going to listen to his corner. Maybe his corner is going to listen to my corner. But at the end of the day, when that bell rings and we're in there fighting, like, there's only so much listening that you can do without compromising your performance. So, I mean, like I said, I grew up wrestling, so I have a really good ear for my coaches. Whenever I go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, I always have a coach in the corner, and I'm always tuning into those voices. So I don't really think it's going to be a big deal. Our code words are just to make sure I'm having fun and to put a smile on my face while I'm in there.
And you mentioned earlier about the likes of Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. You were watching those fights growing up. Were those the earliest memories for you getting into the sport? Do you have a memory where you were like, I've fallen in love with this now. I've got the bug for it? So,
I mean, I graduated from high school in 2005, which was probably right around the Ultimate Fighter 1 or 2. And the idea of MMA was always, like a pipe dream. But in reality, it was like, man, that's pretty fucking scary. Like, I can wrestle, but can you wrestle while you're getting punched in the face? Can you wrestle while you're getting elbowed? Like, and then the whole idea of transitioning to something like jiu-jitsu, it was just, it was always a pipe dream. And then I slowly got into it and realized, man, this is just the next level from wrestling. This is the next step up. This is the progression of where I want to go. And the fears went away and it became a desire.
And then during that whole process of where you were becoming a professional athlete in the sport, who was the first person that you worked alongside where you knew them beforehand from watching them on television? You're like, oh my God, this is pretty cool to be working with one of my heroes.
I don't know. So when I got into MMA, it was actually a really cool situation. I had just finished playing rugby. I kind of had a falling out with my coach, and one of my buddies was like, hey, there's this up-and-comer. He's going to be in the UFC one day. He's a killer. He's a savage. He teaches kickboxing downtown in Denver. Let's go check him out. And it was Brandon Thatch. And he's a UFC vet. He fought Gunnar Nelson, a couple other guys amongst them. But, I got involved with that school over there. I think it was Inner Strength Fitness at the time. I got down there to pick up Muay Thai, man. I did Taekwondo as a kid. It's not the same, but it's similar. And my senior year, spring break, he was like, hey, man, I know you got vacation coming up. If you want to come down to fight team, we could really use your looks for a couple guys getting ready for fights. You've got really good wrestling and decent hands. What do you think? And I was blown away. I'm like, dude, these are some top quality athletes asking me to come in there because I'm able to get them to the cage and take them down the ways that their teammates can't. So I spent a week, not in the trenches, but I spent the week with a fight team, getting guys ready for their fights. And I just fell in love with the sport. And it was at that point that I knew this was a potential avenue that I could pursue. Fast forward a couple of years to when I moved home, one of the first guys that I started working with that was on the next level was John Doomsday Howard, another local guy from New England. He had a really good relationship with my coach at the time, Michael Varner, and it just started growing from there. We got, and then of course, like Joe Lozon, being a local guy, we were never really close up until recently, but just another guy that I could see doing the right things, doing the things that I wanted to do that I could watch along the way. But to go from seeing John Howard be someone that my family's restaurants have sponsored on his UFC trips to being someone that I've trained with was definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool, man. And just finally, we know that Dana loves fighters who just want to fight anywhere, anytime. we've seen that with Chimaev recently, two fights back to back. Is that your sort of mentality as well? Like, if all goes well next week, you want to be fighting as often as possible?
Yeah, I mean, why not? So I made this, like I said, I made this monster in my head during the pandemic that, Danny Henry, not to go off on a tangent, but Danny Henry had his jiu-jitsu coach, his striking coach, his teammates were all in his house every day in his living room, rolling jiu-jitsu, getting him ready for that fight. And then once the cards started going off, I started realizing that a lot of guys were showing up on weight and out of shape. So I told myself, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get on weight. I'm going to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to fight as much as I can for the rest of the year because they're looking for guys that are ready to fight. So God willing, this goes according to plan. I go in there next week. I get my hand raised, take a week off at most, make sure my body's right to get back into a camp, and then put my name right back into that hat. I think this is an opportunity where I could possibly squeeze out 2 more fights by the end of the year, if not more, and kind of like get on that badass Donnie Cerrone level, just be ready, stay within fight weight, and just knock motherfuckers out and let everybody know that I'm here and to put my name on the division.
Well, I know you're truly an exciting athlete in all facets of the game. I think everyone's going to realize that next week, 100%. I wish you the best of luck, and your story is truly inspirational. So the more opportunities that you get to tell your story and allow it to resonate with other people that have had similar experiences, I think that would be amazing for everybody and amazing for the sport, because you're a true credit to the sport.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I still get messages, I don't want to say every day, but I mean, people reach out to me, hey, I just saw your contender fight. I saw your bio. Like, I've gone through these things. I think it's incredible that you were able to rise above that, and these are strangers that I'll probably never, ever meet. And my girlfriend's always like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, someone that's going through depression that wanted to let me know that they've gone through the same thing that I'm going through. They've lost a brother, they've lost a sibling, they've lost a friend to the same thing. And it's just really to let them know that they're not alone and that there is a way out. And if you need help, to go out and seek it, to find someone that resonates with you, that will, hear your side of the story and not try to push you into something that you don't want to do. Like I tell everybody, vet your therapist before you find a therapist, because if you find someone that's just going to write you a prescription and send you on your way, that's not what you need. You need someone that's going to be willing to do the dirty work with you and get you through the things that you need to get through.
No, 100% agree with you. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and we'll definitely keep in touch. We can do one afterwards. So yeah, best of luck, my friend, and hope everything goes well.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.